Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hey, hey. Alright, if you have not subscribed, you should do that because I don't know what you're waiting for. Just this is not our agreement. Do that, share this video, do all of that. Then welcome back to Bible study with Ada. Right? So we're studying today Genesis chapter 34. Disclaimer, before you start, this chapter has gory scenes, infuriating images, and it's just quite a lot with thought-provoking conversations. So, well, still don't go away. We're going to study the Bible regardless, just to inform you, right? So Genesis 34, what is going to happen is I'm just going to give you a gist of what happened, and then I'm going to tell you the lessons that I gleaned from that after. All right, welcome. So basically in Genesis 34, Esau and Jacob previously, before now, Esau and Jacob, they've separated at this point, right? Jacob is living in Shechem, right? Remember we were wondering, like, was that where God told him to leave though? Is this where? How did he get here? How did he settle here? Was that the instruction? That's how we left the last chapter. And then this chapter basically is the rape of Dinah. Dinah is Jacob's daughter. I know, sad, right? So basically, Dinah is in a new place. She's in Shechem, and she decides to go into the village to see the women of the village, right? And unfortunately for her, the prince of the land sees her, rapes her, violates her, then has an emotional attachment with her. And now he wants to marry her. So all of the emotions in him, he's going to his father, he's like, get me this girl. I like her. I do like her. I want to marry her. And obviously, this is an abomination, right? You don't do that. You should at least marry a girl before you rape her, right? You should not even rape anybody, right? You shouldn't violate anybody. So technically, morally, wrong, right? And then, word gets to Jacob. Obviously, it's a town. What is going to spread? Jacob hears this, and he's quiet. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't confront anyone. He waits for his sons to come back. His sons that's Dinah's brothers, were on the field. The king is here. The king is talking to Jacob, right? The king is saying, oh, my son is in love with your daughter. Give us your daughter for marriage. Let's marry your daughter. And then there's a lot to gain. You know, you're going to have economic advantage. We're going to marry between ourselves. Let's make a treaty. You know, let's exchange. Your sons marry our people. Let's do all of this. Let's gain, right? You can trade in our economy, how you want to trade in our economy. Just let's have a truce. That is what she was proposing. And his brothers are there. They're like, they had a plan. They know how they're going to go about it. So they decided to deceive them, and they agreed. In pretense, they're going to agree, or rather they agreed. They said, no problem, our people are going to be united. We're going to be one with you. But do this first. Before we give you our daughter, just so you're like us, in our kingdom, you know, circumcision is of importance. It came from our great-great-grandfather to us. I'm just having fun, just so you know. And then they're telling them that before we give you our daughter, circumcise all your men in your kingdom, basically. And then that's the condition. The guy was so much in love, and he was like, I'm ready to do anything, name the price. And he said, no problem. So the father and son, that's the king and the prince, go to the gates of Shechem, right? Go to meet the elders, go to meet the people, and to tell them what had transpired. But they were emphasizing on the fact that there's going to be economic advantage and exchange between these people. And these people have land. They've agreed to be one with us. They've agreed to, trade and all of that. We're going to take advantage, or rather, we're going to benefit from their resources and vice versa. And then people are like, that's true. We're going to benefit from their resources, right? That's good. Okay, not bad. They tell them the gist, and they are set. Long story short, they circumcise all the men. Jacob's brothers, two of them, Levi and Simeon, killed everybody, because on the third day after circumcision, these men are weak, and they slaughter all of them like flies. They kill them, they destroy their city, they take a lot from their kingdom, and they take their sister back. And then Jacob is angry with the brothers, or rather with his son. What have you done? And they're like, yes, father, talk. What should we have done? Are they going to treat our sister as harlots? That's basically the gist, right? So let's go to what we have learned. First off, Dinah steps out of covering. The Bible starts off by saying that Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, decides to go and visit the Canaanite women. I'm just like, hey, that was even the beginning of my hey. Like, you're in this place, right? And I'm just like, we don't even know if there's some partial obedience going on here. And then you're going to go and mingle. Just tells us as believers, right? We should be careful where we are. This is not even just to, put the fault on the victim or whatever it is, but just lessons to learn. She just kind of stepped out of covering. I'm going to go back to whose fault this really is, because I'm not even going to wait till I get there. I'm just going to say it plainly, like, Jacob, our half obedience, our misalignments, and so much not only affects us, but affects our children. Because this, we see here the daughter of Jacob paying for this. Oh my goodness, I was just like, parenting is such an important job. Like, you can't make mistakes, you shouldn't make mistakes. At the end of the day, right, they are children, and it's our prerogative as parents to make the right decisions, right? We're going to consult God doing that. We're going to ask God. That is why it's important to be a praying parent. A parent that values God and what God is saying. But anyways, let's not even go too far. So she was violated, and it was crazy. It was morally wrong. And I was just like, first of all, who even does this? And when I was reading, I thought to myself, because I ask questions really when I'm reading the Bible. I'm asking myself questions. I'm asking like, what kind of a place is this? Like, for parents to do this, is this something that is common? Is it a commonly practiced thing? Because in other places, you will not marry first before you marry first. You can't just take and then request after you have taken. But it seems like in this place, that was their custom, because it was not even shocking them. And it just tells me that where we are sometimes, there's a difference, right? What can be normal in one place doesn't mean it's acceptable, because this is ridiculous. This is so unacceptable. How Jacob handled everything. He was quiet. And then I wrote to my point that handling sensitive information requires wisdom. So this is one part of it, right? As I was reading at first, I was like, okay, he was quiet, he was calm. The version I wrote said he waited for peace, right? Sensitive matters need to be processed first. Do you understand? So when I was reading this, I was like, okay, maybe he's trying to process, maybe he's trying to think. I realized later that was kind of not really what happened, but that's just a point, right? We need to, sometimes that silence is intentional. As long as it's not something that you leave so much and there's now a gap of chaos, or something that it just leads to a bad leadership, that you didn't handle it well and then it's not overtaking my event, which is actually what happened in this scenario, right? Silent, let's see, maybe he was, drawing strength. I just felt like he wanted to wait for his boys to come and then maybe talk as a family. I was like, okay, nice one. You're not going on emotions. Imagine to hear such a gory information regarding your daughter. Oh my goodness. So I was giving it to Jacob like, nice one, you're maintaining your peace, you're maintaining your cool, you want to know what you want to do, right? And handle the matter well. But then again, when the brothers came, I'm not really seeing anything like Jacob did. Jacob is not confronting Shechem. At no point did he tell both father and son, this is wrong. I'm like, what kind of leadership style is this? Right? At no point, because think about it, what if they had talked about it as a family? What if he had directed and led his children to think through it and just, process it? And he says to them, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to analyze, we're going to plan it. Maybe the children wouldn't have done what they did. But maybe because they realized, our father is not even talking, you know what, we're going to do it by ourselves. We're going to show them shiggy. You know that kind of thing? Maybe because he was just quiet. So sometimes we need to be careful, not to be in a place of just nothing. When the world is expecting us to lead, when our people are expecting us to be leaders, we're just there, not saying anything. Maybe he was too shocked to say anything, but at some point, as a leader, you're expected to rise up to the occasion, right? And then direct your family, because they've caused the mess. Imagine the offer of the king and the son. They didn't even say, sorry, or we did this. I mean, in your mind, it really wasn't a taboo. They didn't talk about that aspect. They didn't talk about feelings. They didn't even address the nonsenseness of the situation. They're going straight to, okay, this is what you will gain, this is what you will benefit, right? So basically, the one will try to compensate for what it has corrupted. And then you now see the brothers now. The brothers, okay, we're going to deceive you. So sometimes we can see that deception can be disguised as negotiation, right? I wrote that in my notes, but read it here. It says, tempting fled to Hamor and his son Shechem. And the young man lost no time in doing what was suggested, because he was in love with daughter. He was the most important member of the family. Okay, this version is different. In another version that I read, he said that he was more honorable in his family. And I was just putting question mark. He was more honorable? That's how now? I don't get it. What do you mean by he was honorable? Do you know what he just did? I was literally putting question marks in my notes. But then I started thinking about it, I'm like, obviously the honor they meant was not in terms of character, right? Yes, now it's very clear here, right? He was the most important member of his family. He had influence, right? So this just tells me that sometimes influence is not character. They're two different things, right? Yes, they were talking about the fact that he was a man of good standing, not moral standing, not character. So that was just very interesting for me to see, right? It's just saying in this our world, there are a lot of people that are influential. That is their standing, but we're not talking about character. We confuse these two to be the same. Someone can be of an honorable status, does not mean they have an honorable character. Two different things. So I see people following their faiths and all of that, and they are forgetting the character part. I'm like, which is more important? Anyways, another point is, oh my goodness, the power and the dangers of the gates. So we saw that the king and the prince go to the gates, and I'm just like, these gates. We hear a lot about gates in the Bible, and I'm like, the gate is a very influential place, because at the gates they had all the ears of everyone. So it's a place of influence. It's a place where decisions are being made. That is the gate. So when we have all these prayer points, like talking about the gates, addressing the enemy at the gates, and even when the Bible says that the children will address the enemy at the gates, I'm just like, that is such a place for us to take advantage of, because it's a place of hearing, it's a place of decision making, and a place of influence. That on one side. Then another side, one of the biggest questions that I had was, wait, you tell me that the men and the showmakers in the city sat down, and then Prince and so on are giving them cock and bull story, and they just agreed. Nobody thought, wait, oh, this might be a trap. Nobody thought, well, what are the, they didn't ask questions. They didn't ask, so what are the consequences of this thing? Okay, how is the conversation going to happen? Are we going to be in pain? Wait, if we're in pain, what's security for our country? I'm just like, decision makers. If you're Nigerian, take a deep breath. This has happened in the Bible. Decision makers gathered in a place, right? And they're not asking questions that will benefit or cover the nation, but their concern, I need to check that. Their concern, let's see their concern. I was like, how did nobody see that? Their concern is 24 and 25. 23. See their concern. It says, won't all their livestock and everything else they own be ours? So let us agree that they can live amongst us. All the citizens of the city agreed with Hamor and Shechem, agreed with what Hamor and Shechem proposed, and all the nations were concerned. They're talking about livestock. How did they see when they're blinded by greed? Like, that is what was important to them. Because I'm like, nobody thought that this was disastrous for them. Why didn't they oppose? Point number one, he reframed it as economic advantage. So if you see the great storytelling by father and son, right? They come and they didn't even talk about what happened. You see how they conveniently avoided the taboo part and went straight to, what is it about agreed to be one with us? Imagine they're friendly people, they have this and they have that, we will benefit. They turn into economic advantage conversation. I'm just like, oh my goodness, can we talk about Jacob's response? Because I am not understanding. So obviously, I'm like, okay, fine. Two wrongs don't make it right. Obviously, what the brothers did was bad. Greed reduced their discernment. Their discernment definitely was reduced because of greed. They were thinking about livestock and what they would benefit. That's why they didn't see. That's why they didn't think anything. 3, they trusted influence and authority. I want influencer, my fave gang. So your faith has sense. It's your faith thinking. Are you going to trust your faith over common sense? That's literally what happened. Because these people were people in authority, they just trusted them. Because they were influential, they trusted them. It's not today that people of influence are talking nonsense. Like, oh my goodness. And it's not today that people are following people of influence without thinking. Selah. It said, number 4, it looked like a peaceful alliance. They brought it as a peaceful alliance. Oh, there's a contract, agreement of marriage. It's peaceful, right? That's how they made it look. And then obviously the violence escalates. They kill the people, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I literally wrote in my notes, 2 men killed all the men in a city. 2 men. That is the power of rage. You know, when someone is angry, when you're focused on revenge, you would have to see, anger gives you the strength of 100 men, right? And then we see Jacob is talking to the sons in verse 30. Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have gotten me in trouble. Now the Canaanites and the Perizzites and everybody else in the land will hate me. I do not have many men. If they all band together against me and attack me, our whole family will be destroyed. Yes, it's true. It's actually true. What they did was going to cause them into trouble. Was going to put them into trouble. And then other people can come and attack them. It's good. But at the end of the day, I just felt like Jacob never addressed what happened even with his children. He didn't want to let them air out the hurts. Like, they didn't talk about it. Is it because they're men? I don't know. Were men talking emotionally then? They didn't. Like, and I'm just like, that doesn't seem right. It just seemed like Jacob cared about reputation. It seemed like at that point, he was thinking about what's his own defense, his own reputation, looking bad. Which has a point, he has a point, but it just took up the entire conversation for me, and I'm like, a lot happened, and I don't even see that he even spoke to Dina, nothing. Like, I'm just like, what a mess is this? Like, it was just weird. Just giving poor leadership, right? And then the son's response, the son was like, but they answered, we cannot let our sister be treated like a common whore. They're speaking and they acted from pain. I'm just like, would it have made a difference if this pain was addressed in the first place? Would it have made a difference if the father and son, that's the king and the prince, apologized? I already made note that it's important that we address our pain, because there's a lot that you can do. You shock yourself if you're walking from pain. Even in a crazy, it is good to process it with God. See, I've gone through terrible things this year. Like, I went through one of the craziest things this year, and the only thing that kept me sane was processing it with God. And I feel like Jacob didn't do that. His children didn't do that. And that caused a lot of problems. And God was just quiet. Closing line. You must be in the right place at the right time and doing it God's way. That is it. Right place, right time, and God's way. Nothing else.